Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Strategy Talks. I almost forgot the name of it. I am so excited. We're going to talk today about imposter syndrome with a very special guest. This being the first episode, this is a perfect topic, right? Why did I, who has been in the social media sphere for many, many years, not started my own show before? Well, guess what? Imposter syndrome is real, alive, and right here amongst all of us. So if you are watching this live, thank you so much. Let us know where you're joining us from. If you're watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay in the comments. And for those of you who are joining us as a podcast, and if you're here listening, I just want you to know we appreciate you as well. So in episode 1, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome and what it means. So I'm going to bring in my special guest today, a longtime friend who I've invited to be on my podcast first. And I am just so excited to have her join us. Welcome to Kristen Dokas. How are you, Kristen?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm first. Woo!
Yay! So we're going to be talking about kiss imposter syndrome goodbye. But before we do, I want our listeners and our viewers to know who you are. So let me just pull up your bio and let everybody know who you are. Kristen Dokas of Say Anything Media is a strategic marketing professional with more than 15 years of experience in B2B, B2C, and startups, combining digital, social media, influencer, and traditional marketing and content strategy expertise to improve and build profiles and company awareness, right? She's an early adopter of blogging and personally a social influencer for national and local brands. So that's very exciting. And you and I have been working together since, 2013?
At least. Yeah. It's crazy.
So that's really, 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 really crazy. So we're going to jump right into imposter syndrome. You and I were having a conversation last week about me starting this show.
Right.
And we were talking about what topic should we talk about?
Right. And, the first thing that came out of my mind was like, gosh, it's been so long since I've done blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure if I could really be qualified as an expert on that. And that, my friends, is exactly where the imposter syndrome came from. You and I have been doing this long before the majority of people in our industry have. I mean, I think I'm looking at 15 years at this point. I mean, 15 years ago, social media was not even a thing, right? So why in the world, if I have 15 years of experience, would I even have an iota of imposter syndrome? Why?
But you do.
But of course I do.
Yeah. So
every woman in the world does.
So what is imposter syndrome? I looked up, guys. I'm going to just read you the definition as I found on trusty Google. So imposter syndrome is loosely defined as doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud. It's disproportionately affect high achieving people who find it difficult to accept their accomplishments. So does that kind of go with what you...
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that we kind of talked about, it was 1978, which in the 70s is really when women re-entered the workforce, right? And it was and again, imposter syndrome is largely a female thing, right?
Right.
And can I say my little quote?
Yes, please do.
So one of my favorite memes that I saw on this topic was, have as much confidence as a mediocre, middle-aged white man. And if you stop and think about that, it is very true. It's also very well known that a woman, if she's looking at a job post, and again, don't come at me because I know some men have it, but it's largely a female thing. If you have a man and a woman looking at the exact same job posting, a woman will look at it, and if there's 20 criteria, right, she'll go, I've only got 15 or 16 of those. I'm not qualified. A man will look at it and say, I can do 5 of those, and I'm qualified. That's a huge disparity. So
how does this start? Like, where do we start? So, imposter syndrome's there. We want to get beyond it. you've kind of, I think, hit a really good point of the men versus, women, how we look at it. A lot of us want to be perfect and want to have all of those qualifications, right? And a lot of us are rule followers. I think that's
Right.
another
Yeah.
big piece in
Yeah.
that, high achieving rule followers, where, like, as say, for example, now with the great resignation going on and people are looking for new jobs, and they might be looking at a job and they're like, well, I don't have this degree, right? It's calling for a marketing degree, but I have a degree in education. And so that women often will disqualify themselves. Why
Absolutely.
do we do this?
Yeah. I think we were raised by boomers. And I think that, there is those gender roles that we had to grow up with. So, the man is the breadwinner, et cetera, which again, that 1978 thing comes back into play, is that's really when women went back into the workforce. But the gender roles really haven't started changing. And by gender roles, I mean that as a married couple or a couple or whatever, that you are equal partners, right? You're both going out to work. You're both having to take care of the kids. So I'm really hopeful that our kids' generation, the younger millennials and definitely Gen Z, are not going to have this as much, right? So I think we as parents have parented our kids a lot differently than our parents did us. And when we were growing up, the roles were traditionally your teacher, anything that was nurturing and homemakery, right? Whereas now we're like, you want to be a rocket scientist? Go be a rocket scientist. Find what you love to do. So I'm hoping that, our kids' generation will not have it as much, but I see it sometimes with my girls. My oldest, she sees that all of her friends post-college are having their first real jobs, et cetera. And she's bartending. And I have to stop her in her tracks and go, you, my child, are making more money than they are bartending in Washington, D.C. And guess what? You don't have to answer email on the weekend.
Right. Okay. You're right. So it's comparing yourself and living up to expectations that aren't really what we should. And you mentioned 1978. That was a study that was done when imposter syndrome first was mentioned. And I grew up in the 70s, like you did, 70s and 80s. And certainly what you just said held true for me, right? So when I started my career, when I was 40, as a social media manager, I had been a stay-at-home mom for close to 15 years. And so I felt very much an imposter syndrome. And so let's talk about how we move beyond that. What are our resources, tools? How can we help each other as women, right? How can we lift each other up? And how can, if somebody is watching this and they recognize themselves in this and they're like, okay, what Dorien and Kristen are saying, that's me. I totally recognize I'm immobilized with fear. I think I'm not good enough. I think I can't do it. How do we have this conversation is a good one, but how can we move people to action, Kristen? What do you suggest? How do we start with that?
I think a lot of self-growth, reading, things of that nature. And I hate for it to sound this simplistic, but for me, it really is like, if you feel that way, fake it till you make it. I mean, what is the worst thing that's going to happen, right? You might fail, but guess what? Even if you fail, you're going to learn from those failures, right? And if it doesn't, what did I tell you last week? If it doesn't scare you, it's not going to challenge you. Every time I send out a proposal that is larger scope than the one before, I'm always nervous. But I've also taken on the attitude of, I know my value, and I'm still probably undercharging. I'm probably still undercharging for the level of knowledge and expertise that I have. However, when I send it out, I'm like, okay, they're never going to accept this. But I also have to talk to myself. I have to talk to the devil in the room and go, what happens if they don't? you move on, right?
Right.
You just, and you know that just wasn't, it's like in the dating world. If somebody leaves, that was not your person. Whether it's, and I shouldn't say dating, in any kind of relationship, if a person leaves, that's not your person, right? So if a prospect doesn't take your proposal, you know, what does it, what's the saying? It's not rejection, but protection, right?
Right.
So it's that whole, then it wasn't meant to be. And I know that's kind of just like a top of the surface attitude, but I think we get so bogged down in the, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that we just have to, it's business. And, you know, I think unfortunately a lot of women also take things personally, and that's a big thing. You can't take these things personally. It's business.
Right. So when I read your bio, and those of you who are just joining us right now, I'm talking to Kristen Dokes from Say Anything Media about Kiss Imposter Syndrome Goodbye. And you're a social influencer. And I think this is something that we struggle with, right? We're talking to an audience of social media professionals, business owners. And when I talk to potential clients, we talk about going out there and showing your expertise online, right? That's personal branding. And they tell me, I feel like that imposter syndrome, why would anybody want to know what I do in my private life? Why would anybody want to know that I'm a runner, or I'm a marathon runner, I'm a skier, or I have 4 dogs, or, you know, that imposter syndrome, like, even creeps into my own thoughts about doing social media. But it's all about putting yourself out there, correct? That imposter syndrome, and not being afraid to fail, but also being open to new ideas, new networking, and new people. So how does that tie into social influencer? Because I'm assuming a lot of those people who are social influencers don't have a problem with imposter syndrome.
No, but they might. I mean, you'd be surprised, because what we're seeing again is that surface value, right? We're seeing that face value. We're not seeing, you know, and right now it's such an interesting world in the influencer marketing realm, because everybody is, you know, in it. And it's just, you know, we aren't seeing that it took them 25 shots to get the shot, right? And I would imagine that there's probably a lot of imposter syndrome, and probably a lot of self-doubt in that world, because there's so much competition, right? Especially on the beauty and entertainment side. You know, look at TikTok. I mean, it's so hard to,
Sure.
I mean, it's easy to break through, but it's impossible to break through, right? Because there's so much noise. So how do you then make sure that your stuff is quality stuff, right? It's about quality, not quantity. So I've just recently started a 365-day challenge on Instagram.
Wow.
I don't know. I have no idea what made me think of doing that, but I remember there several years ago, I did the 100 Days of Happiness, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, why not? I have not been paying attention. I don't want to say I haven't been paying attention to my own brand, but I have not been giving it the love that it needs, right?
Sure.
And it's, were you at the Converge South when Tracy Myers was the keynote? And he has a book, and it's called You Are the Brand Stupid. That's the name of the book.
No, I was not. Yeah. I don't think I was there for that one. Yeah.
So, and, you know, it kind of goes along with, you know, Mark Schaefer's thing. Your personal brand is very important. So, you know, you've got to, it comes back to, you know, on the imposter syndrome. It's like, you got to have confidence in yourself, right? And it goes in back to what I originally said. Sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. And, you know, what are your goals? I mean, if your goals are to get more, you know, there's a couple of marketing groups that I'm in, and it seems like at least 2 or 3 times a week, you've got, you know, it's again, well, one of them's women in marketing, so it's all women, but, you know, somebody going, I'm doing this, that, you know, and I'm, you know, like this thing that you and I probably charge like $5,000 a month for, they're going, I'm charging 500. And you're like, oh my God, you know, your time. And, you know, go back to losing. If you don't win, I hate saying losing. If you don't win that big contract, you really aren't losing, because you still have your time. And especially in what we do, time is money. I mean, we don't have widgets to sell.
No.
Right? We have our skills and our knowledge and our expertise. And that right there, it just because, you know, person, you know, prospect A doesn't want it, prospect B may want it. And every time, and I think you and I've talked about this too, anytime the whole when do you raise your rates, the first time that somebody doesn't even bat an eye at the price you give them, and you go, okay, next time I'm kicking it up. Like I've already kicked up my strategy rate like twice in the past year and a half that I've, had my agency back open. So
yeah. So I want to kind of, this is a short show, guys. This is 20 minutes. I want to be able to offer value every week. So for those of us and those are listening and watching right now or on the replay, Kristen, what are some ways that you have pushed yourself through that imposter syndrome, that feeling? And I know you already mentioned you had a women's group where you were in, and another thing you mentioned, just doing it. But how, if you're doing that 365 days on Instagram, what made you actually do it? Is it just putting one foot in front of the other? Give us some practical advice that we can use. And for me, to start this show was just doing it and putting it out to the universe. I said, I'm doing it. And I posted it on social media and boom, there I was. Yeah. So I think that is, I think those are some good ideas, but what else can people do, right? If they're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling so much.
So I think a big thing, and it was the big hurt. Frank Thomas, big, White Sox, one of my favorite all time, right? And this came up, Philip Oakley made this comment, and I don't think I even knew the story. Frank Thomas would never broadcast his resolutions and his goals. He would tell his now wife, his fiance. And I think it's important that you have your very tight circle of confidants and people that if you just internalize it, you're never going to do it. But if I tell you that I want to do X, and it's almost like that unspoken accountability thing. So if you tell somebody and if you keep it inside, the universe doesn't know. But if you put it out into the universe, you have to follow up with it. When I was 21 years old, I moved to Chicago from North Carolina with nothing more than my car and my cat and my car packed full of all of my belongings. I didn't have a job. I had a place to live. That's it. I could have backed out of that, but I had told so many people that I was going to do it. There was no way that my ego and my pride was not going to let me do it. And it was scary as crap, right? I mean, little Southern girl moving to Chicago. It was scary, but I did it. And you know what? When I did that, I knew I could do anything. And I'm, like I said, when I send out big proposals, I'm always nervous. It literally is like that proverbial pushing the button
on the email to send the proposal. Yes. Take a deep breath and just do it, right?
And then you slam your clamshell and you run away and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
I just did it. Yeah.
And then you wait, and then you're nervous. And then one of two things is going to happen. They're going to say yes, or they're going to say no. Either way, guess what? You didn't die.
And you got an answer, right? I want to give another tip. Eat that frog, guys. So
yes,
what helps me a lot is the thing that you dread the most, the frog, right? You don't want to eat it. It's yucky. It's gross. Eat that first. Do that thing that you don't want to do first thing in the morning to get you past that imposter syndrome. Yep. And I think that's really helpful. Kristen, I have some rapid fire questions for you before we wrap this up. Start work late or leave work early?
I start work late and work late. I'm a nocturnal person.
Okay. Education or experience?
Experience.
Pep talk or motivational quote?
Pep talk.
All right. Awesome. I love these. I thought these were very appropriate for what we're talking about, right?
Yes. I'm very much a rah-rah person. I'm like, go, 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 go.
Right. And I'm going to share something personal for those you are watching. I struggled with imposter syndrome, and I have struggled with it because I don't have a formal education beyond high school. And so here I am, right? Here I am as a social media strategist, running my own business. I'm making really good money. I'm working with big companies. And that was a big deal for me. But what I realized, it was all about competency, right? I know what the heck I'm doing. And so that imposter syndrome sometimes creeps in, but then it's validated by some amazing clients who just keep hiring me and keep telling me that I'm doing a good job. So
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, Kristen. I think a lot of us struggle with this and we need to move beyond that. And one of the things that helps me is, like you said, that small, close-knit group of people. And I see them right here in the comments. Heather is here. Lisa is here. Emma is here. These are people that are part of my tribe. These are people that when I have that imposter syndrome, they're the ones who jump in. And you were there last week for me, and that's how we got to this topic. So I want to see all of you succeed in business, right? If you feel like you are struggling with this big time, direct message Kristen Dokas on LinkedIn, direct message me. Let's talk. We also have a brand new Facebook group. I'm going to put it up on the screen for those who are watching live. It's a Strategy Talks community on Facebook. It's brand new. Literally, there's 2 people in there right now, but I'd love for you to come talk to us. Every week, we'll be adding new members in there, and we can continue conversations that we're having here live. So would love for you to join that. Each week, I'll be back at 10 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays with all of my colleagues. Guys, I have already booked 7, 8, I think, guests. We're going to talk about all things strategy and business and social media. And it's all about you. We want to help you move on to the next thing, to be your best self in 2022. Thank you, Kristen. Just a quick reminder, where can people meet up with you?
Anywhere you can find my name, you can find me.
Okay, Kristen Dokas.
Everything is Kristen Dokas.
Yes. For those of you listening, it's Kristen with Kristen, Dokas, Daukas. And she is Say Anything Media. We'd love for you to connect with her. Thank you again for those of you who joined us live for this first session of Strategy Talks episode 1. Thank you for those watching the replay. Don't forget to put replay right there in the comments so we know that you're watching that. And if you are listening to this podcast, thank you so much for being here. Do not forget to subscribe. Kristen, I'm gonna let you go. I know you and I are busy business women. We probably have all kinds of meetings set up. Let's do it. Let's make 2022 the year that we are going to create bigger, better, and more beautiful things than we already have. And let's kick that and kiss that imposter syndrome goodbye.
Absolutely.
What say you?
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for having me as your first.
Sure. And bye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.